Hello and welcome to FCell Weekly. In this week's episode, we will discuss the latest news, including the abolition of some of the jury trials in England and Wales, and Norway's construction of the world's longest and deepest undersea tunnel. Let's start with our first headline of the week. The UK Justice Secretary announced that jury trials will be abolished in England and Wales for offences carrying sentences of less than 3 years. Serious crime cases such as murder, robbery and rape will still go to juries, and volunteer community judges who handle the majority of all criminal cases will take on even more work. These reforms to the system of justice, including the creation of fast-track courts as part of the government's plan to address the unprecedented delays in the court system. UK Deputy Prime Minister David Lammy stated that the changes were bold but necessary. However, conservative people think this marks the end of jury trials. Lammy added that this system would get the crime cases dealt with 20% faster than jury trials. According to Lammy, the system is necessary as the number of backlogged cases would go from 78,000 to 100,000 by the year 2028. This would mean that a person who is currently facing a crime could wait until 2030 to have their trial. And since the most cases, especially rape cases, are dropped off 60% of the time by victims because of delays in prosecution, which means the new system could come in handy. To prevent the manipulation of the system, the reforms to the jury process will restrict a defendant's right to a jury trial will be restricted if the case could be heard by magistrates or a new crown court with only judges. Currently, magistrates can impose sentences of up to 12 months imprisonment or an unlimited fine. These restrictions include that defendants facing accusations of fraud and complex financial crimes will no longer be entitled to a jury trial. At the same time, for the most serious offenses such as rape, murder, people trafficking, and serious drug offenses, the trials will be guaranteed. From the approximately 1.3 million cases filed each year in England and Wales, only 10% go to the Crown Court, and these only 30% end in a trial. With the reforms, it appears likely to mean that more than 2 in 10 will still go to a jury. However, the critics of the restrictions, including nearly all lawyers, argue that they will have no impact on the backlog of cases because the real problem lies with cuts at the Ministry of Justice. There is also evidence to suggest that ethnic minorities believe they receive a fairer trial by jury than by magistrates alone. The Liberal Democrats stated that jury trials are a fundamental right and called for a strategy that increases court sitting times, makes better use of underused courtrooms, fixes broken private contracts that leave defendants stranded in prison vans, and invests in rehabilitation to reduce reoffending. The Criminal Bar Association, which represents specialist criminal lawyers in England and Wales, criticized the change as well, saying they are destroying a fundamentally working and safe system that has been in place for generations. They added that the juries are working and they are doing their job perfectly and impartially. President Real Carmi Jones, KC, also expressed concern at the lack of detail provided in David Lammy's comments. Right now, legislation is needed to implement the changes. Moving on, the world's longest and deepest undersea road tunnel is being built in Norway, aiming to reduce travel time between major cities and become part of a ferry-free highway along the country's west coast. The tunnel is called Rogfast. It is 27 kilometers long, and at its deepest point, it will be 392 meters below the sea level. Constructions began in January 2018, but was stopped in late 2019 due to anticipated cost overruns that would lead to the cancellation of existing contracts and the restructuring of the project. The work continued in late 2021 and it is expected to be completed in 2033 at a cost of approximately $2.4 billion. And Britt Moyne, project manager at Skanska, the multinational construction company building the northern section of the tunnel, stated that by replacing existing ferry connections, Rogfast will reduce travel time between Bergen and Stavanger, the second and fourth largest Norwegian cities by population, with nearly 40 minutes, making daily commutes much easier. The tunnel will have two separate tubes, each with 2 lanes designed solely for road traffic. However, building a tunnel of this length under the sea presents several technological challenges. Like most modern tunnels, Rogfast is being built simultaneously from both ends to save time, with the goal of 2 construction crews meeting in the middle with a margin of error of just 5 centimeters. Achieving this level of precision requires measurements using lasers and other advanced equipments. A rotating mirror-ray laser scanner measures a freshly excavated tunnel section, collecting 2 million data points per second to create a digital twin of the tunnel. This data can then be used to check design plans for any errors. The Rogfast project is part of the renovation of the E39 coastal highway, a 1,100-kilometer stretch from Trondheim in the north to Kristiansand in the south. Today, it takes 21 hours to drive the entire route, which includes 7 ferries. The aim is to make the road ferry-free and to cut the travel time in half by building tunnels and bridges. But this aim is not expected to be achieved before 2050. In addition to the technical challenges, the tunnel also requires measures to protect drivers from air pollution. A longitudinal ventilation system, primarily using jet fans to create airflow, will be used. Currently, the title of the world's longest underway tunnel belongs to the Seikan Tunnel in northern Japan, a rail-only tunnel with a total length of about 54 kilometers and a 33-kilometer underwater section. The Channel Tunnel, which is also rail-only that connects the UK to France, is shorter at about 50 kilometers, but its nearly 38-kilometer underwater section is longer than Rogfast. However, Rogfast will be much deeper below sea level than both the Seikan and the Channel Tunnel, which have bottom depths of 240 meters and 115 meters. That concludes this week's episode of Hefsel Weekly. This week, we have explored the UK government's reform plans for the justice system and Norway building the longest and deepest undersea road tunnel in the world. Thanks for listening to Hefsel Weekly. See you next time.